where do I start if I'm interested in homeschooling?
Ah, yes, fabulous question. It's an overwhelming question, actually. This is where deciding your end goal is very important, to decide that and then talk with your kids about that, so that and get those things meshing together so that everybody is on the same page. I should say also, it's best if your spouse is on board with.
True.
We should say that as well.
Start there, maybe very, very first before
Right,
the
start
kids.
there with your spouse for sure, just because it's more helpful, right? In our case, we, told our extended family as well, and just so everyone was aware, right? And gave them opportunities to share thoughts or what have you. You have to be ready for that if you decide to do that. But in some ways, it's very good because then they've aired their concerns and you know all about them from the get-go. And so nothing surprises you in the future if they're coming up with concerns, right? Generally speaking, what's happened with us is that over time, those, and they see how the children are progressing and things like that. There's really sometimes not too much said about the reasons they were concerned in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So there's value in that if you choose to do that. And then just explore tons of resources. There are so many out there that you just couldn't even begin to look at all of them, right? Talk to people who are already homeschooling, and you'll get a wide range of, oh yeah, it's so hard. I'm gonna just send them all back to school next week, and then you'll get those that just like, oh, I just love it, right? Because there's a lifestyle you settle into over time as you do it longer. And so to the extent that a person has settled into that lifestyle and figured out what works for them and their children and their family, you'll get very different answers, right? If you're trying to set up a public school system at home,
It's not going to work.
They do a really great job of that. If that's what you want, they do a really good job of that at the public, charter, private schools.
Yeah.
And so, take advantage of that if that's the kind of thing you want and the end goal. If that's what you want, then take advantage of that. But if you want something different, you want your kids to love learning and be lifelong learners, if you want them to be more leaders who know how to think, then there's a different set of things you want to focus on, right? That will look different in your home than it would if you were going somewhere else.
So that's kind of the parenting, or use the parents, and we should talk maybe a little bit about the kid. Now, granted, usually when you're starting, the kids are really small and young, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as I recall, now I wasn't there, but I remember hearing stories and stuff that, with your first kid, my older sister, you took her even to public school or talked to a school teacher or something, or her school teacher, the kindergarten teacher or something. Anyway, tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. There's also a preliminary experience that happened. My husband designs kitchens for a living, and he had a customer that he was helping who had a biking accident, and she had become paraplegic. So he was helping her redo her kitchen after she had her 8th baby, and they were homeschooling. And my husband, when he was there helping her with her kitchen, was so intrigued, right? Our first was, Melanie was probably a year old, I'm guessing at the time, maybe 9 months old. And he started asking her a bunch of questions, seeing how their home ran, right? And they ended up inviting us to come for dinner, and then we just asked a ton of questions. And that was super helpful. It was my first experience and exposure to someone who was home educating lots of kids, and from a wheelchair, by the way. And it was amazing. It blew my mind. I was just so amazed. When her 8th child was 3 months old, she and her husband decided to take a second honeymoon, and they went mountain biking. And she doesn't know exactly what happened, but she fell. And in that accident, then, became paralyzed from the waist down. And anyway, amazing woman, absolutely amazing. And it was so fun and so intriguing to me to see what they were doing and how they were doing it. We were talking to my sister-in-law and telling her about it. She started homeschooling because her kids were older than ours. And then when ours, when Melanie became 5, we were still undecided. So we, went to meet with a kindergarten teacher. We had done all the paperwork and things as we were still trying to decide. We were very open with her and explaining that to her and saying, we're not sure. So we're just letting you know if she doesn't come, this is why. And if she does come, this is why. And so we were explaining that. And she was very honest and, bless her, honestly. She just said, I'd be lying to you if I told you I want more kindergartners in my class. Having taught school, I can understand why.
Yeah.
And they weren't kindergartners either. But she said, honestly, if I hadn't had to work, I would have homeschooled my kids. And that really caused us to think as well. For someone who was a really, really great teacher. She, was famous for being a really, really great teacher of little kids. To say that caused us to think a lot. And then it's a matter of personal prayer and discussion between you and your spouse
Sure.
to carry on and decide what's best for your family and that child.